Excited for it. It's more of a story. Don't worry, not another impression. So when you think of famous Yiddish writers, who's the most famous one you think of? Yeah. See, I put people in the audience to give the answer. And I read a Shalom Aleichem story that you may know. It's called Yom Kippur Scandal, and it's a great story where there was a scandal on Yom Kippur. You really get good at titles. And at the end, they discovered that someone was eating when they're supposed to be fasting. So I thought, okay, what was if we were writing this in the 21st century in Montreal, in the Jewish community? Are there any Montreal Jews, by the way, here at all? Yeah? Okay, so this is you might hear someone in this story that sounds a lot like it's based on you or your mother, and you would be right. So this is called the Passover Scandal, and I wrote it. "That's nothing!" called out the man who had been sitting all this time in a corner by the window, seducing scotch after scotch and listening to our stories of divorce, debt, and lawsuits. "I'll tell you a story of a theft that took place in our neighborhood at my aunt's Passover Seder during a playoff game. Against the Leafs, no less. Here's how it went down. At the Passover Seder, just before dinner, an out-of-town uncle rang the door. He was a salesman of some sort from New York, who always smelled of leather. Coming in just as we were closing our Haggadahs and the housekeepers were marching out the soups. He stood at the dining room entrance with large crinkly bags dripping from his fingers. 'Shalom Aleichem,' said he. 'Uncle Morty,' we answered. 'What are you doing in Montreal?' 'I had a business meeting, don't ask.' 'And Cindy and the kids? They're at her side of the family, probably having a terrible meal.' 'And you're here?' 'Where do you want me to be? In the soup kitchen?' 'And you're hungry?' 'No, not really.' 'What's in the bag, Uncle Morty?' 'Oh, you didn't think I'd come empty-handed, do you?' 'Our houses are too small for more tchotchkes,' said the wives. 'Shit, the game's starting,' said the men. The men charged like Israelites escaping Pharaoh into the den. And the hired help were instructed to serve dinner on stainless steel serving platters with disposable cutlery. 'If they wanted my good china, they should have stayed at the table,' said Auntie Sheila to her housekeeper, as she opened drawers and gathered white plastic cutlery packages, a fork, spoon, knife, which she had been pillaging from the fast food court on her lunch breaks. The TV was turned on, and the proper channel quickly found Hockey Night in Canada. Canadians versus Leafs. Are there any Leafs fans here? Montreal versus Toronto. Game 1 of the quarterfinals. Oh, the suspense. The indigestion. This game was certainly more perilous than 40 years in the desert without bread. I don't need to tell you what was at stake here. After decades of the Montreal Jewish population oozing down the 401 like a wound that won't heal, this game was for bragging rights. But I'm getting off track, forgive me. We found Uncle Morty a spot on the couch. He kept a black sack balanced on his knees with one hand at all times as we ate. But when it was over, when the final blast of the third period had died down, the 3 stars announced Manischewitz bottles emptied, and when the Montreal Canadiens, doubled over and sweaty, had marched back to their locker room to explain the loss to the press. Well, they capitalized on some key turnovers and their passing was crisp, and I don't know. Suddenly screams were heard. We looked around. Uncle Morty was bent over the couch, strangling the pillows. What was his problem? You wouldn't believe me if I told you. All right, I'll tell you. He tells us that he had brought with him a black sack filled with 18 diamonds. To leave diamonds at the hotel, can you think of that? 18 diamonds. He had been afraid. Where would the diamonds be safe in Montreal? Only with him. Hindsight is 20/20, but Jews have such lousy eyesight to begin with, we don't even trust our hindsight. And somehow, the sack had disappeared at the end of the game when everyone was crying into his neighbor's shoulder. Well, the poor guy cried. He tore his hair, he rattled his fists. What was he going to do now? They weren't his diamonds, he said. He had just been doing his friend a favor by picking them up in Montreal. He was royally screwed. The crowd stood petrified, forgetting that they had all work or school the next morning, that the dog needed to be let out and walked, and it was already getting pretty late. That it was disgusting this had happened to our family. An embarrassment, a scandal in our own eyes. A theft like that, 18 diamonds, and when? While the Habs were wheezing down the final seconds of a painful defeat. Honey, lock the door, ordered Auntie Sheila's husband, Dr. Larry Finkelstein, the dermatologist. When the door was locked, Dr. Larry climbed onto his wobbly chair, his face red as an unkosher lobster, and his hands making broad gestures in the air. He said, "Now everyone listen to me. Under my roof there's a thief, a disgrace to our family. Who has the chutzpah to steal from Morty? And on what day? Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs? I swear, this probably jinxed the entire series. We lost to the Maple Leafs because of this. I just know it. Someone will be held accountable. There will be a reckoning. Oh yes, oh yes. Let's search each other now. Go through each other's pockets. Shake out our purses, our wallets, all of us, from the oldest to the youngest. Don't leave anyone out. Start with me. Search my pockets first." That's what Larry said. And he was the first to pull his pockets inside out. Following his example, we all loosened our belts and emptied our pockets. The men searched the men. The women searched the women. The women searched the men, since we're not very good lookers, it's true. Purses were spilled, wallets were emptied, until it came David Applebaum's turn, who, first pretending he'd already been searched, and who then, seeing no one believed him, argued, well, in the first place, Morty is a liar, that his story was pure fabrication. There had never been any diamonds in that sack. Couldn't they just see he was looking to make a quick buck of his gullible Canadian relatives? The room got very loud. What did he mean? All the uncles and aunts had allowed themselves to be searched, lawyers and doctors among us. So what was David Applebaum? Why was he so special? There would be no exceptions. Search him, the crowd roared. David Applebaum begged us not to search him. How do you like that? Do you think we listened to him? Hold on a second. I forgot to tell you who this David Applebaum is. He came from somewhere near Winnipeg, if I remember correctly, and he had met Larry and Sheila's daughter while studying at McGill. A great addition to the family, Auntie Sheila had boasted. Soon after their daughter had introduced him, David began going to hockey games with Larry. He took to the Habs like he took to everything else, with complete determination to be the best. Well, the man devoured statistics, watched biographies, even bought Canadian socks and underpants. We all tried our best to stump him. What was Maurice Richard's brother's name? Anyone? Henri Richard. How many overtime victories did we win in the 1993 playoffs? What were the most Stanley Cups won in a row? Nothing tripped up this guy. This guy was good, a little too good if you catch my drift. He was too clever, too knowledgeable about the Habs' regular season schedule. When we watched hockey games at Larry and Sheila's house, he was always the last to arrive and the first to leave. He would follow the game, yes, but he would not cheer at the right places. often looking like he wasn't even paying attention to the game at all. And he didn't look like he lost much sleep when our captain, Saku Koivu, was battling cancer. And so, when it was his turn to be searched, and he refused, that was all the proof most of us needed. He was our man. He begged us to forget the whole matter, begged us to chop him, roast him, cut him up. He even offered to write a check to replace the diamonds if he would just not empty his pockets out. You, Larry bellowed, you've got some nerve. Do you know what you deserve? You know what all of us have gone through. Do you see how upset you made your mother-in-law? Everyone else has endured this embarrassment of being searched. You want to be the only exception, Jesus Christ? Either come clean and hand them over, or let us see for ourselves what's in your pockets. To get to the point, the uncle seized him by the shirt. They wrestled him down on the floor and began to search him all over. And finally, they shook out, well, guess! A well-gnawed bagel. And a crumpled mise au jeu ticket with $200 on the Leafs to win. You can imagine what an impression that made. To discover he had placed money against the Habs on this most sensitive of days. The story was apparently over. Well, we all asked in one voice, what happened? What happened to the diamonds? What diamonds? Asked the man innocently, looking at something out the window. What do you mean, what diamonds? The diamonds, the 18 diamonds. Oh, he drawled. The 18 diamonds, yeah, they're gone. They're gone.